Welcome to the Wire to Wire podcast. It's me, your host Yusuf. Now this is part 2 of my conversation with Justyn Knight. We go in depth on this one, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Without further ado, let's get right to it. Some of the ventures you have going on outside of your profession, you have, if I'm not mistaken, you have a sponsorship deal with Reebok.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, a little thing about me is my all-time favorite athlete is Iverson. So
Yes.
anyone that knows me knows that about me. And
Jeez.
I know he has like a lifetime deal with them. He's been with them since he was a rookie.
That's the goal,
So,
right?
yeah. So I like Reebok personally. Like, I have like 20 pairs of his shoes right now, man.
Really?
I have over 20 pairs. I'll send you a picture if you don't believe me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the reason why I'm bringing this up, there is relevance to it. The reason why I'm bringing it up is because one of the things I like about Reebok is, like, on the outside looking in, it seems they have like a culture of being authentic and allowing for their athletes to be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I get the impression that that's their selling point, right?
Yeah.
But in your experience in dealing with them, talk about what your experience has been like dealing with them, and what was it that enticed you
Yeah.
to join the Reebok team?
I mean, they're a pretty progressive company, I would say, in general. Like a lot of young workers there. So like they're not, if anything, like they're really progressive. Like I guess you can say, kind of in tune with like the younger audience and stuff, and like they kind of do things not the same way that older people would do them. I think like kind of the reason why I went with Reebok, like one thing for sure, like there's no hiding it, is like when you're a pro, it's very different than the NCAA. So things aren't as simple as full scholarship, half scholarship, or no scholarship. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
now we're actually talking about dollars and like, preparing yourself for that next avenue in life. And Reebok was one of the companies that gave me a really opportunity to set myself up financially in that way. Even too, like I felt like the goals that they had, at the time were very aligned with the goals that I had as a person,
Yeah.
and an athlete. Like be dominant. Like those were the same. That was the same mentality that I guess you can say that I had,
Mm-hmm.
just with athletics. So,
Yeah.
at the time when it came to me making decision, like a lot of things just lined up. I also got to keep my same coach from college, which was a positive thing. A lot of my teammates, I was familiar with them too, which was nice to have. So I think like at that time, there was just a lot of great stuff that they were telling me. It made sense and stuff in the moment.
It is interesting you use the word progressive, because that's kind of the vibe that I get, because
Yeah,
I remember, like, even just growing up as a kid, right?
yeah,
They were really the ones that brought hip hop into basketball,
yeah.
because
With
like
AI.
they had, with AI, and then they had like Jay-Z had his own sneaker line, the Carters, and then G
Oh, I
Unit
didn't know
had their
that.
own. Yeah, he did, the Carters.
Oh
you,
man, I didn't know
see-
that.
you could go back. You could go back and tell them that you went on a podcast and you got a Reebok history
I
lesson.
will. I'm honestly going to in our next catch up meeting.
Yeah, they had the S Carters, and then they also had a shoe line with 50 Cent with G Unit.
I did not
And
know any of this.
yeah, man, I'm telling you, I'm a Reebok guy, bro. But
Gee, no, I'm gonna have to get a shipment to you ASAP.
I appreciate that, bro. Thank you for even offering that.
No problem.
But they do have a history of being progressive, so it's interesting that you kind of picked up on that,
Yeah.
and that you mentioned it, because it is true. Because you did mention something like in regards to finances, right? So being an athlete, you're still early in your career, but thinking about even life after, right?
Yeah.
Do you think about like investments and things of that nature? And
Oh, all the time. All the
yeah,
time. I feel like, as I was telling you a little earlier, like, my family, like they pride themselves on education. And, one of the things that comes with education is like being able to make those decisions that set you up in the future and set up
yeah,
like, the next generation of your
yeah,
family to be financially stable. And,
yeah,
I came from a family where, we were taught to deal like, just try to get the necessities out of stuff and understand like
yeah,
what's a necessity and what's not, and try to live off of that. And for me, like, there's doing that. And then, I have a financial advisor right now we're trying to do some work together. We haven't done
That's good.
anything yet, just
Yeah.
because like I just recently got him. Even aside from that, like I was telling you, like I'm very interested into like owning property and renting it out, and I want to buy property. I want
Yeah.
to invest in real estate and stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to do. Stuff of that nature, and just owning land and stuff like that, and having my money work for me. So,
Yeah, that's what I'm actually in the process of like kind of learning
oh,
about that stuff
nice.
now.
Those are some things that I kind of pride myself with, and I'm very fond of just kind of getting to learn how to do those things.
Yeah.
And I mean, even outside of running and stuff like that, like I know that my running career, me being the best athlete that I can be, can also set me up to be like a coach in the future or a mentor of some sort, where
Yeah.
I'll still continuously get paid to do something that I've been doing my whole life. So that's
Yeah.
stuff that I think about all the time.
And I could see that for you. I mean, don't get me wrong, I hope you have a very long, successful career, right?
For sure, yeah,
I think you're very well tempered. I think you're someone who's very patient.
yeah.
And also too, I think you're someone who's understanding.
I appreciate that.
Because you can admit to your mistakes and you know you are self aware enough to understand where you made mistakes early on in your career,
Yeah,
but you made the effort to correct them, right?
exactly.
So I could see you guiding, 15, 20 years from now, someone who's where you are right now and helping them avoid some of those mistakes and,
For
you can
sure.
reduce the learning curve for them. I can see that
Yeah,
happening.
and I already start trying to do that when there's track meets that I go to, and whether I'm competing or I'm watching someone compete,
Yeah.
um, sometimes kids recognize me and they're like, "Oh, Justyn, like, can I get a picture and stuff?" Or like they ask me if they can get advice, and I
Hmm.
always like I'm the type of person where me, like it doesn't matter who you are or what you can do for me. Like if you're a nice person, I will always give you my time of day. And
Yeah.
usually I assume people are nice people until like they prove me otherwise. So if a random kid comes up to me, like I always talk to him, and it's more than just like, hey, it's more like, hey, how are you? What's your name? How old are you? What are you into? Like, what's your main event? Stuff like that. And
Yeah.
sorry, I think I'm getting a little off topic, but like when I do stuff like that, you never know whose life you're saving. There could be that kid that feels worthless. You know what I mean? And
It's true.
he's mentally drained. And like the fact that you take the time out of your day to actually conversate and ask him about his life, it might actually save someone's life. And
It's very true.
yeah, and I always think about that. And then I was even thinking to like one of these kids that not recently, I guess you can, back in 2019, I went to like a high school meet or something like that with a buddy of mine who he's like a physiotherapist. So he worked on a couple of the kids, and like he went to go see them compete, and he asked me to come. So I went, and
Yeah.
I was talking to these kids, and then they were asking me about scholarships and, getting into school. And I told them something that was really important, which a lot of kids don't think about scholarships in this way, where a lot of kids, they only think about scholarships being like, oh, I can only get like my scholarship through athletics.
Hmm.
And I tell these guys where, you know, in college, there's so many different ways to get scholarships. There's so many ways for you to attend your dream school. And yes, like
Yeah.
I'll be the first to say, like athletics is very important. Like if that's what you're passionate about, you should strive for it. Like if that's something that you spend your time in, like you should always try to be your best.
Hmm.
But sometimes your best might not be good enough because there's
Yeah.
so many people out there.
Yeah.
And I told them, like, I used Oregon, for example, because in Oregon's a good basketball school, whatever. So a lot of people can relate because they have a lot of great sports. But
Yeah.
Oregon in track and field is like, it's almost like going to Duke. It's so historic and everything.
Yeah.
And, the kid told me like Oregon's his dream school. And I said, well, you know, do you think you can get into Oregon? And he's like, well, like my times, like they're not as fast as they could be, but like I'm really trying.
Hmm.
And then I told the kid, like, well, listen to this. Your times are pretty, like, they're not bad. They're pretty good, but they
Yeah.
might offer you like a 60% scholarship, for example. Now, a lot of kids, like, school in the States is very expensive. So 60%, like, isn't the best. Sometimes, like, that could even be the deciding factor. Like, hey, you just got to go to a different school because that school's too expensive, even after 60% scholarship.
Yeah.
And I told him, but like, what's your academics like? Like, do you try hard in school? Like, do you work hard? Or are you trying to get a 4.0? And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, yeah, I do well in school, but like sometimes I slack. And I said, trust me, what you want to do is work just as hard in school as you do in athletics, because you might get that 60% offer. But if you're a good student too, the academic department at Oregon might say, hey, we can give you 40% scholarship to come here on an academic aid.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, 60 plus 40 turns into 100%, and you're at your
Yeah.
dream school doing it what you wanted to do. And
Yeah.
I'll always remember that moment, because they weren't thinking about it in that way. But I think like a lot of kids forget like the power of education, and how
Mm-hmm.
like education can actually help you achieve your goals from an athletic standpoint. So I was
Yeah.
really happy that the kid actually listened to me. I don't know where he is now, but I hope he listened and he was able to achieve it. But that's
Yeah.
something that I always tell kids too.
Yeah. And you got to keep an open mind, right? Like life is about being open minded. Like,
Exactly.
because the goal can be fixed, but the journey to getting to that goal is not a linear thing. It's not
Facts.
like it's not like it's not like yeah, it's not like you're just driving a car, like you just go in your car, go straight to destination. No, like there's gonna be
Take a
turns.
detour.
Yeah, exactly. There's gonna
And
be
nobody's path is the same. That's the thing at the end of it. You can't watch what your friends are doing. You
yeah,
can use their path to help guide you,
yeah.
and like be like, oh, I can see how like this patch was a little bit rougher than,
Hmm.
if I went a different way. But nobody's path is
Yeah.
exactly the same.
And
Exactly
exactly.
what you're saying.
And
Yeah.
everyone's journey, to kind of piggyback off what you're saying as well, everyone's journey is just as unique as the individual themselves. So
Yes.
what so what looks so one so person A's journey is not going to be the same as person B's journey.
Exactly.
So you just have to keep an open mind, have your target on what you want, but be flexible in how to get there, because
Exact.
new doors might emerge. So I think by you even just giving that kid that advice, whether he took it or not,
Yeah. Who
you at
knows? He
least
might have tried in
yeah
school and ended up becoming something even greater, like from an
yeah.
academic standpoint. You know what I mean?
But you planted that seed that wasn't there before, so I think you did your part.
Yeah. It's so crazy, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see too, like another thing where you can watch your friends and be inspired, but it's good to not watch people too closely, because
I agree.
I mean, there's a lot of people in high school, or even college. I think more so high school is definitely, you can see it a little bit more, but you
Hmm.
thought like these kids were so ahead of the game, and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
like they have all
Yeah.
this, and like they're moving like that, but then, and you felt like you didn't accomplish anything, or you didn't have
Yeah.
anything. But then, and not all my friends, obviously, but there's certain kids where
Hmm.
I was like, man, in high school, like you have it all, buddy. Like I would trade
Yeah.
anything for what you have.
Yeah.
And then now, like, years later, they're looking at me in that way. But like our journeys
Yeah.
just were, it took me a little bit longer to surpass what I thought was amazing at the time, and now I'm doing
Yeah.
something greater. And there's kids that even see that with me. Like there's kids who are like, oh, you live such a cool life, but then like years later,
Hmm.
they're gonna be doctors and lawyers and like
Yeah.
executives, or what have you. You know what I mean? Or just living
Yeah.
a good life. So I feel like it's always important to know that everybody finds success at different points in life, and just because you might not be successful right now doesn't mean that you won't be in the future.
Yeah,
Because
it's
I
true.
would have never seen myself, like, looking back when I was just a basketball player. I could have never dreamed going to Syracuse University and getting a full
Yeah.
scholarship, and Reebok sponsoring me as an athlete. That didn't even enter my mind.
Yeah.
I would have loved it, but like
Hmm.
I couldn't see that happening.
It's
But
just it's one of those things where you just never know what life will take you. And
exactly.
it's like, and that's part of it's, again, it's all part of the journey. And
Yeah,
it's part of having an open mind, is that when you go through this journey and something new presents itself, you just go with it.
exactly.
Like, so
Yeah.
let's just say your mind was set, no, I have to go to New York
Yeah.
to stay at school in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And then you might not
Yeah.
have been as open minded to going to an American school. Like if they came to you, you could have just been like, no, no, that doesn't work for me. I want to here.
Yeah.
But because you're flexible and the opportunity presented itself, you gave it a chance. You went to see what was going on. You weighed your options, and it worked out. It worked out the way it was meant to work out for you, right? So it's like
Yeah.
I agree with what you said earlier though about not watching people too hard.
Yeah. For sure.
It's not good. It's not good because it throws you off your path.
Exactly.
You gotta watch what you're doing and not pay attention to what other people have going on. Just focus on yourself and what you can do to get better every day.
Exactly. I can't preach that enough.
Yeah. So when you look at everything, right? You look at all the things that you've accomplished. You know, being a 3-time NCAA champion, you're a 2-time world champion finalist. Is there anything else that I'm missing?
Man, I mean, at this point, like, All Americans. I don't even know how many All Americans I have, but I have a lot.
And you're a Team Canada athlete. You'll be competing in the upcoming Olympics in Tokyo.
Oh, here's something cool. I was a 3-time Syracuse University Athlete of the Year. So, like, including the basketball players, the football players.
Wow.
I was also Rookie of the Year my freshman year. Yeah,
Jeez,
that's the only other thing I could imagine. So
probably the man on that campus then.
I was, they treated me like a basketball player over there. It was I'm forever indebted for they're family to me out there. I never actually answered that question, like to be a part of Syracuse University and be a part of and have my own legacy over there, like it means a lot to me, man. Like being an Orangeman, or just I guess we're the Syracuse Orange now, but like being an Orange, it just means being a part of a greater family. Like when I was there, like the people within athletics, like the athletic director and the staff, like they all treated me the same before I was like Justyn Knight, the NCAA champion. Like they always treated me with so much respect. And it never changed. Like even when I started becoming like a valuable member to their team, like obviously it made them love me even more, but they always just kept treating me with respect. And as you mentioned, like Carmelo Anthony going there and him being like one of your favorite players, to be put in a regard by them as one of the greatest athletes, obviously not, greater than like some of the athletes that went there, but to be in that conversation of like the top 15 athletes that went to Syracuse, or top 10, I think I was ranked. Wow. It's really special. It's really, really, really special.
That's some elite company, but it didn't happen by accident. You put in the work to get there, right?
I put in the work, man. Yeah. I told you I grinded like I didn't know where my next meal was coming from. The thing about me is like, kids in college is college. Like kind of on a separate note where, sometimes kids get lost, people enjoy themselves, like they have fun. And I had a lot of fun in college, but the one thing where a lot of people wouldn't be willing to do this, because, I saw kids on my team that weren't willing to do this and kids at other programs, is that like during the season, I didn't drink alcohol at all. Like I was dry during my season. I knew, and to be honest, it's not a bad thing. Like some kids can drink a little, but like for me, I was just so focused, like, hey, I'm not going out partying when I know like I need to make sure I have all the energy to make sure that I can perform for my team and my coaches. So it's just like the little stuff like that of being committed to your team that I was just willing to do.
But see, that's very telling, right? Because college is known for a time of partying.
Yeah.
It's known for a time of partying and like hanging out with your friends and, turning up, like, especially in the States, like,
it's crazy.
But the fact,
we were ranked the #1 party school in America, like 3 years in a row.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
They're crazy out there.
Even over University of Texas?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think West Virginia used to claim it. Maybe I'm capping. I don't think it was 3 years in a row, but I know for two out of the 4 years that I was at Syracuse, we were ranked the #1 party school. Because you gotta understand this too. Like, Texas, the weather's always nice. Like we got girls and guys going out in blizzards, like in skirts and everything. Like those people, they don't care.
But see, even more, like, you see, it makes your case even more. The fact that, all of that was going on and you still stayed focused and you abstained, like that takes a lot of willpower and
trust me,
strength, bro.
Yeah, so it was testing.
You deserve a lot of credit for that.
But saying that, it's like I was trying to make friends too as a freshman, and everybody in my dorm on the same floor as me, they were cool people and like they liked me. They kept asking me to go out. I wouldn't say I lost them as a friend, but like eventually when you keep telling them no, they just stop including you because they know that what your answer is going to be. So like for me, it was really hard being a foreigner as a freshman to like kind of have that lifestyle. the stuff like that where like I look back at college and like I kind of have a couple stories like that where you don't appreciate it in the moment, but then like you look back and you're like, that's
Yeah.
something funny. Like now that I'm through it,
Yeah.
like I can laugh about that now. So
Sometimes I think to myself too,
yeah,
right? I wish, like, how we look back and say, man, those were some good
yeah,
days. It would be good if in the present moment, something could just tell you, enjoy this moment right now, because one day this will be that this will be
facts,
that moment that you're going to look back on and really reflect.
exactly.
I try to train myself to just live in the moment and appreciate it,
And,
because you never know. You may look back one day and be
and
happy
that's
like that you
and that's
experienced it.
big, and like I think in life people are sometimes like, oh, like this sucks right now, and like my life's gonna be so much better. And not to say that life gets worse, but like just to like the point
Mm-hmm.
that you're saying is like you realize like, oh man, like that was really fun, even though in the moment I didn't really appreciate it, but like it made me a stronger person, or like I never
Yeah.
got a moment like that back again. And then
Yeah.
like that's like the stuff where like even I'm not gonna lie, like living with I don't live with roommates right now, like I live alone, but like having a
Mm-hmm.
roommate in
Yeah.
college and like just that whole lifestyle, in the moment I kind of thought it was
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit inconvenient. But then now I look back at
Yeah.
it and I was like, no, we had some funny times. Like, and we did some stupid, some stupid stuff that I probably won't talk about. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like the moments like that where you're just like, wow, those are just memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sometimes in life we're always looking ahead.
Mm.
Oh, when this happens, I'll be happy when this happens. I'll be happy when this happens. Well, it's got to stop, smell the flowers, and just enjoy where you're at right
Yo,
now, because
yes.
it's not coming. That this moment that you're in right now won't come back again.
And kind of
So
piggybacking off of that, like it's kind of a side note, kind of not changing the topic, but through running, I've had the opportunity to visit plenty of places outside of North America. I've
yeah.
been to Dubai, I've been to London, I've been to Rome. But the place that I wanted to
Hmm.
mention was Colombia. And when
Okay.
people always ask me about like, oh, what's like one of the favorite places that you've traveled to? I love Colombia for for many different reasons.
Yeah.
But the food's great there. Like honestly, when I was in Colombia, actually, I'll never forget. Like I was just walking down the street. I think it was Barranquilla, but we were just walking down the street, heading to the grocery store, and I noticed like all these kids were just like playing and like kicking the soccer ball. Families were like sitting on their porch and like enjoying themselves, laughing, and it was just so different than like what I was accustomed to seeing, at least nowadays, where like people are always on their phone, or like, people's parents, like they're so focused on money. And like, I feel like we're very money
Yeah.
driven, where
Yeah.
in Colombia, like they just seem so thankful to just be alive and have their family
Yeah.
around and their friends around. And like from the youngest kids to like the grown-ups, it was just like a complete different mentality than what I was accustomed to seeing in North America. And I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that trip, because just like you said, like living in the moment, what I saw like those kids doing and those families doing is just living in the moment and enjoying each other while everybody is still there. And I feel like
Yeah.
in North America sometimes, and even myself too till this day, like fall victim of just getting caught up in how can I make myself financially better, or like, you know what I mean, like, kind of like that type of stuff where we forget to just be thankful for life and to be
It's true.
alive. Got me
No,
like
it is
thinking
true.
so deep now.
This is what the podcast is about,
Yeah, it's
bro.
good,
Like,
I like it.
I want to add to
Yeah,
what
go
you're
ahead.
saying. I don't know. I noticed like on social media, a lot of people are angry and
Mm,
annoyed, and they're always
yep.
complaining, and it's kind of become like a place where it can get
Yeah.
toxic, right? And I kind of have my own theory as to why that is, because I think in North America, for the most part, like particularly Canada and the
Yeah,
U.S., is like we have life good when you think about
we
it.
are spoiled. Trust me, I've
Yeah,
seen
like
some stuff.
we have yeah, we live comfortable
Yeah,
lives for the
especially
most part,
Canada,
right?
like
The thing is, like, it's so good that we look for things to complain
mm,
about. So sometimes people get riled up and angry about things that in the grand scheme of things don't matter. And the reason why I'm bringing
for
this up
real.
is that you mentioned like how people are in
Yeah,
Colombia, right? They don't worry about those things because they don't have a lot, but the things that they do have, they're just
they're just
happy with it.
thankful, for real, man.
Here we don't have a message of thankfulness. It's more, consume more, get more.
Dude,
And there it's just it's a different culture in these places of the world.
And
Like
they're
what you're
happier
saying about
with
Colombia,
less, with
they're
less
happier. Yeah.
in life. Like I remember, their housing, at least from the outside, didn't look as nice as so what we have in Canada. But they're smiling
Yeah.
ear to ear, like as if they're living the greatest life possible. And those
Yeah.
smiles that I saw that day, I couldn't go back to
Yeah.
Canada and see people smiling the same way, on average at least. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like I think that speaks
Yeah.
volumes that, and we
It
look
does.
down on people like that saying like, "Oh man, like I feel bad for them because imagine growing up and not having anything and like you don't know any better," where it's like they're feeling bad for us. Like imagine having
Yeah.
more than most and still being unhappy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a yeah. So that's what I think of
No, you're true.
sometimes.
You're completely right. And I find like even with social media, like people get so caught up. Social media doesn't show you someone's life. It doesn't allow you.
It doesn't.
It only shows you what they allow you to see. You're only seeing what you're allowed to see. You don't know everything that goes on in the background. And like I think like social media, it's really interesting. I tell people, I'm like, don't get it confused. Like these same people that are wearing these products and marketing this stuff and saying you got to have this on Instagram, they don't pay for that stuff. You know what I mean?
It's a business, like, and what you're touching on too is very important because, especially like when you look at like these rappers and these music
Yeah.
videos, right? They see the cars, they see the jewelry, they see the girls, but what they don't know is that those girls are paid models that were hired, right?
Yeah.
That car, that car is not even their car. It was just literally it's a prop. It was put there on the
Yeah.
set, and that jewelry, as soon as the camera cuts, that all that jewelry is coming off their neck.
In fact.
Like
And then you have a
yeah,
generation of people that are like, oh man, as soon as I make 50 racks, like I gotta drop it on a chain. It's like, how about you buy a
yeah,
house? You know what I mean?
yeah. It's true. Like, when I look at it, like how a Mark Zuckerberg
Oh my
dresses,
gosh, yeah.
right? Some of these young up and coming rappers dress. It's
The
a
real
mindset.
rich
It's really a
people
mindset. Like
don't dress like that. You wouldn't even know that they're rich. I'm telling
no,
you.
exactly. Like I'm pretty. Like if people had no access to internet or anything, Bill Gates was beside them. They wouldn't even know that's Bill Gates or Warren
Yeah.
Buffett. They wouldn't even know that's them,
Yeah.
right? And you notice like the more money people make, the more minimalist they become because they start to understand these things don't matter.
Exactly. Look at
Look how much jewelry Jay-Z used to wear versus now.
dude, I love that. I never thought of that, but you're so right. Everybody, even like I think recently, I mean it's not Jay-Z money, but like was it like 21 Savage? He's like, I'm not wearing chains anymore. I'm and like yeah, like
Yeah,
you get to a certain point where you're just like, why am I doing this? Like let me
yeah. You realize that it's a financial
yeah.
trap. Like it's really a big financial trap, and it's like it's a waste of money. You have jewelry, but it's like all that money you made, that's the best you have
Yeah,
to show
for
for
real,
it.
man. A lot of people, I think they don't know how to live within their bracket. And I
Yep.
think like that's very important to know
Yep.
because you can make good money. Like I don't know, let's say like you make 80K a year or 100K a year or something. Like that's good money. But if you want to start
Yeah.
living like you make 2.5 million a year, it's not going to work out. You know what I mean? Like you're going to be
It's
broke. And
yeah.
yeah, that's just the point I guess I'll leave it off on.
You'll be competing in the upcoming Olympics
Mm-hmm.
in Tokyo. So how are you feeling about that whole experience?
Man, I'm super excited. And with COVID and everything, obviously like it's going to be a complete different environment than ever before. I already realized that. We got an email from Team Canada just kind of highlighting the fact that like fans won't be allowed in the stadium or at the event in general. Fans outside of Japan actually. So I think like you might see like some Japanese people there, but they're not opening the
Yeah.
gates for people from all sorts of countries to come and watch the games. So
Yeah.
honestly, I know it's going to be different, and I've had this conversation with a lot of my friends that like already went to the Olympics, and they're like, "Oh man, like it's going to be different. I don't know how I feel about it." Blah 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 blah. But for someone like me, like I'm a competitor, and at the end of the day, like for
Yeah.
me, the glory is nice and everything, and like that moment. But at the end of the day, like I'm trying to get first place at that race, and as far as I'm concerned,
Yeah.
that's all I need. Like we could be running in an empty stadium and I can get first place and I'd be
Yeah.
more than ecstatic. I'm just really excited. I'm really grateful that the Olympic Committee found a way to make this work and to still put on the event. So I'm just, I think thankful is just how you can summarize it.
And as you look back on your entire journey of life, what are some of the life lessons that you've learned playing this game called life?
I learned that things aren't always going to go your way. I think just touching on like everybody has a different path. There's sometimes when you feel like your back is against the wall, but you're actually up against a wall that actually so happens to be a door to something greater. And I think by being that, like, to explain what that means is like sometimes you think you're in hot water, sometimes you don't know how you're going to get out of a situation or you don't know what you're going to do, but it actually makes you grow. And if you didn't go through that experience, like a door wouldn't have opened for you in the future. For me, like it speaks to a lot of things. I wasn't like a bad student. I think at the end of the day, like I was always just an average student, but there's a lot of times where in school I just didn't know, like, man, how am I going to get the grades that I want? There's one class, I'm not going to lie, like there's one class that I did really bad in and I had to retake it just because it wasn't the grade that I needed. It actually taught me, because I ended up retaking it in the summer, and I actually ended up, it was a psychology class, but I was struggling with it earlier on in the year, but taking it in the summer, figuring out a way to like study and write notes and stuff, like very simple things that I just needed a little bit more help with, actually made me into a better student because I knew that the bare minimum's not cutting it anymore. It kind of helped me grow. And I think even from an academic standpoint, it motivated me because I was like, if I could bounce back. So I didn't do well in that. I'm not going to say what grade I got in the psychology class, but then I went from getting a bad grade to getting a 97% in the summer. And mind you, I wasn't taking a heavy course load, so I was able to dedicate all my time to it. But like, I was so proud of myself because I felt like a genius, like the way I was studying and like how much of my time I was devoting to that one subject. And it motivated myself because I was like, look at where I was, where I had a really poor grade. And then I came back and got a 97% in the summer. So, stuff like that. I think patience is something that I've always realized that in life, you got to be patient. You can't rush to make decisions. You have to analyze each situation and take your time to make a healthy, thoughtful decision, because you'll be a lot more happy knowing that you thought about all the positives and negatives than just making a decision to make a quick, sorry, I feel like I said decision too much, but like to make a quick like adjustment to your life. I don't know. But yeah, sorry. I hope that answers your question.
No, it does, bro. That's a perfect answer and very powerful stuff there. And Justyn, I'm going to give you an open floor. It's all yours. Is there anything that you would like to communicate or anything that you want to share with the listeners?
Man, I feel like we talked about so much great stuff, but I think at the end of the day, what's most important is just living life in the moment. We don't live forever. We don't have moments forever. You know what I mean? And I think family is something that I always hold dear to myself, and family, friends, but just value those people around you, because I've seen a lot of people go before, or at least what I thought would be their time to go prematurely. And, you never know how long someone's going to be there. And I think just appreciating having those people around you, people that you cherish, people that you love, enjoying them in the moment, because I think there's often times, like whether it's a friend or a family member, if they pass, you're going to be sitting there saying like, I would do anything to just sit in a room with them. You don't even have to talk, but like just to see them and see their face and see them smiling or something, or have that bond with them. So I think before, someone gets taken away from you, it's very important to just cherish them and love them while they're around. And the last thing I'll say to that point too is just, in life, anything is possible. Don't let anyone ever tell you what you can or can't do. or depending what it is. Like if someone's telling you like, hey, you're going to be a doctor, like, you know, you might want to take that as a confidence booster. But like, I think more
Yeah.
so don't let anybody tell you what you can't do,
Yeah.
because what I've learned through life is like anything's possible. We talked about how people's journeys are different, people's paths are different. I'll say this, that there's certain people in life that do have a head start because they come from a family where
Yeah.
they have more just naturally, like for some odd reason, like they just have more than you do. But it doesn't mean that you can't have what they have or eventually come very close.
Yeah.
Actually, it reminds me of a story. I remember I used to talk to kids at St. Mike's. I was talking to some of the kids
Okay.
that were on bursary there. And for those who don't know, like bursary is basically a scholarship. So like they pay for your school and stuff like that. And this is when I was already graduated. I was in college. I think maybe I was a sophomore or something like that. I knew some of the kids because we went to the same school at some point in time, but like they weren't my age, of course. They were still in high school. I saw them, they were talking after school, and a lot of them were actually like genuinely upset, and they're saying like, oh, like so and so at this school, like they have it so much nicer than us, and like I come from nothing, and like it sucks, and blah 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 blah. And not to say like it doesn't hurt, because it does suck when you see like someone's ahead of you or like their family's ahead of you. But I told them, I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, they might have started ahead in life, and like their parents, financially are able to provide them something that you might not have at the moment. But don't let that change what your parents are doing for you, because I guarantee you that
Yeah.
some of your parents never had the opportunity to go to a private school in hopes of like we have 100% rate of getting kids into college. I don't know if you know that about St. Mike's, but like if you go there, yeah
Wow.
yeah
No, I did not know
100%
that.
rate of getting kids into university. So like you will get into some sort of a university if you go to St. Mike's, guaranteed. At this point, like that's our fun stat. What I
Yeah.
told those kids is like, your parents, they probably didn't have the same opportunity as you, but they found a way to give you something that they didn't have. And you can take this opportunity to go to university and make a better life and whatever for yourself. And then you can do that for your kids. And then they can do that for their kids. And I said, generational wealth has to start somewhere. And it's not fair. Like you might not reap the rewards or whatever, but all you can hope for is that like the next generation from your family lives a better life than you did. And I think like you got to acknowledge that your parents are trying to do that for you. And then when I told them that, they were just like, oh yeah, like that's a good way of thinking about it. But I think that's important to acknowledge as well. So, and that's what I'll leave the listeners
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. That's some very powerful stuff, bro. But you're 110%
Appreciate
spot on, bro. All right.
that.
Justyn, thanks so much for your time. Many blessings to you and your
No problem.
family. Wishing you all the best in the upcoming Olympics and your career. It's been a pleasure having you on. I would love to get you back on sometime in the
I
near
appreciate
future.
that, Yusuf. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me. Obviously, it's a pleasure. I feel like two birds, one stone with you, where it's like we're friends. So like we got to catch up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we also
Yeah.
got to get like a good podcast in as well. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening to the second and final part of my conversation with Justyn Knight. Be sure to share and subscribe to the podcast and follow us on social media. Until next time.